Is the Reform movement becoming conservative? Today's Chicago Tribune, October 30th, 2007, had a story about the new Reform prayer book, and it quotes a controversy about the prayer book with many local Reform rabbis saying it's an indication that it's becoming more conservative. It reintroduces some classic prayers that were taken out by earlier Reform editions. So how do I assess that? Well, first of all, there are still huge differences between the Reform and conservative movement. The Reform rabbinate has taken decisions that place them outside of traditional Judaism on the basic issues of who's a Jew and who's married. For example, they'll marry a Jew to another Jew, even if they were married before, and they don't have a Jewish divorce. See my video on Jewish divorce. They'll conduct a conversion, if they want, without immersion in a mikveh and circumcision or hatafat dam, the symbolic circumcision. Not all do, some do, but it's optional. They will allow someone to be considered Jewish whose father is Jewish and mother is not and never converted. I convert lots of those people because they need to be converted traditionally. And they'll perform intermarriages between a Jew and a non-Jew. Some, not all, but some Reform rabbis, they allow that. So on the basic issues of who's a Jew and who's married, they are outside of traditional Judaism. And they've realized their huge mistake early on in getting rid of a lot of the commandments that are ritual bound. They got rid of bar mitzvah and brought it back. They were anti-Israel and they're now Zionists. Their prayer book was almost all English. When I grew up, it was. They didn't allow you to wear kippot and talitot, and now they've brought all of that back, more Hebrew, and they allow wearing of talitot and kippot. And so they're definitely moving towards more tradition. They've re-emphasized Saturday morning services. They're introducing and emphasizing study. Most of the kitchens in Reform synagogues are still not kosher, and they serve sometimes pepperoni pizza in their youth programs. Some do, but they're definitely moving more towards conservative. Now, the main issue is, what's the difference between conservative and Reform? Is there really a need for different denominations? Because actually, most American Jews, outside of Orthodoxy, have decided that they're not bound by Jewish law, and they live their lives pretty much like Reform and conservative Jews live the same way. Most don't have kosher homes. Most don't keep kosher out. The services are a little bit different, but a lot of the similarities are very superficial. So you put a talis on, you put a kippah on, you sing a little bit more in Hebrew. The structure of the prayer service is still different. The Reform movement doesn't have Musa, for example, on Saturday. They don't have all the traditional wording of the prayers. But the conservative movement honestly made some changes too, and it deviates from the Orthodox because we think that we don't agree with some of the Orthodox terms and prayers. And the Reconstructionist movement is going through the kind of same gyrations, debating about what kind of liturgy in the prayer book text they should have. So is the Reform movement becoming more conservative? Well, superficially wearing talitot and kippot and having more Hebrew in their prayer book and reintroducing some prayers as options that are traditional. But again, on the core issues of who's a Jew and who's married, they still are outside the norm of traditional Judaism in a huge way, and that forever makes a very huge difference. But in the way people actually live their lives, yes, there's a lot of similarity. My goal would be to bring all of us, the conservative and Reform Jews and Reconstructionists, more towards a practical application of Jewish life and observing Shabbat and Kashrut and daily prayer and all of the sacred mitzvot of Judaism.